Hey everybody, this is the Metroidvania Guru back for part 2 of our Metroidvania tier list. You'll see we have everything from part 1 still up there, and now we'll be adding part 2's listing. And the ones that I picked here were all at random again. I got that random picker and it was able to grab a whole bunch of different ones today. So we're going to do 10 more that we're going to add onto our existing tier list. And I think it's going to be kind of fun. I did get some feedback from my last one that I took to heart, and I decided I'm going to try to do these. You know, I was trying to be a little less scripted on these, and I'm still going to do that, but now I got some bullet points, so it'll stop me from doing some rambling and whatnot, which is ironic because that's what I'm doing now. So I'll go ahead and I'll stop rambling now, and we'll get started. All right, so first up we have Metroid, the granddaddy of it all, the very first Metroidvania, even though ironically it doesn't have any of the Vania part of it, but I'm still going to add it as a Metroidvania, because I know there are some people out there that go back and forth. It's like, oh, well, we should have Metroid likes and we should have Vania like, I don't know, it gets really weird. I just put them all together and imagine that there's a spectrum, right? And so Metroid, even though there's no Vania part to it, I still consider it a Metroidvania, so you know, whatever. If you don't like it, I guess skip this part, I suppose. But here we are with Metroid. I gotta say, I'm not a huge Metroid fan. You know, I do like Super Metroid, and I thought Metroid Dread was a good game, even though I don't think Metroid Dread is a good Metroidvania. But yeah, the original Metroid is not it's kind of hard to play nowadays. You know, I got my bullet points here, and I'm just kind of going to go over some pros and some cons to it, and then give you really just kind of like some closing thoughts. So I guess my first pro for Metroid would be that, you know, it was the Wild West of the genre. You know, it's kind of interesting to go back and see how everything truly began. But it's terrible. I know I'm in the pros, but it's so bad. Let me move on from this bullet point, but yeah, it's the Wild West of the genre. It's the beginning. So as a historical footnote, it's interesting to go back and take a look at it. And there's kind of an achievement to it as well. You know, I've beaten the original Metroid a couple of times, and that first time you beat it, it feels like an achievement. So I think anyone who's a hardcore Metroidvania fan should try to play the game, see what they think of their own, but it's a rough one, man. I'm throwing that out there. So, all right, that's really the only pros I have for the original Metroid. I do not like this game, and I played it when it first came out. I'm an old man, so I mean, I remember playing it back in the day and just getting so lost and just even back then it was cool. It was cool to get lost in this stuff, but in modern sensibilities, it's a tough one to recommend. And let's go to the cons because I'm so nice to this game. First off, the secrets, like, they're not handed to you. Breakable walls and blocks, they're not telegraphed, so you're going to be spending a majority of your time just blowing up random crap and shooting random stuff to see if this is how you move forward. It's kind of frustrating. It's just like if you play the original Legend of Zelda, bombs in that game, you know, they're bombable walls. They aren't, like, there's no hints. They don't show you where these bombable walls are, and you only have a limited amount of bombs, and it gets frustrating. Same thing with this one with the limited amount of missiles. You have as many bombs as you want in your ball form, but yeah, it's just, I don't know, these secrets are they're too cryptic in this one. The biomes, yeah, they all look the same. You know, again, this is the granddaddy, the grandmother, if you will, of the genre, and these biomes in it, they're all just pixelated garbage, and they all look exactly the same. They'll like change colors here and there, but it's still just kind of it's not great. And there's no map. That's a huge thing. I remember getting that Nintendo Power that specifically had the map for Metroid. In fact, I think it had the map for Metroid and for Legend of Zelda. But Legend of Zelda came with a map, I do believe, if I remember correctly. The original one on the NES. The original Metroid did not, and so you had to get that Nintendo Power to get the map for Metroid, and even then it was kind of rough. And I remember back in the day playing, and it was cool to, you know, write and make your own map. But it's just, I don't know, if you still want to do that to this day, that's fine. But I mean, you know, I got a career, I got a couple of jobs. I can't be I can't be wasting my time on creating the maps. I'm gonna need those maps in the game, please. So the difficulty in Metroid is just crushing. It's a really hard game. When you die, you got to start all over. There's passwords or passcodes, if you will, and I don't think they like save your progress. I can't really recall. I know you can do all kinds of funky stuff with them, but if you die, you die. You got to start at the beginning. It's kind of a pain in the butt. And then there's this like enemies can hit you as you're entering doors. That always bugged me in this game. Like I'm running through like this room because I'm about to die, and then I enter a door and I think I'm safe, but then it hits you in the entering the door animation, and you can die, and it just sucks, and your life just gets drained so fast. So I don't know. It's just janky. I guess my closing thoughts is this game's trash. I'm sorry if you like this game. Good on you. I mean, I don't want to take it away from you, but like it's not that great. I mean, even, you know, again, I started back in the day. I played this game when it was brand new, and yeah, it was great back then. But it's tough to play games like Hollow Knight and Ender Lilies and Symphony of the Night and be like, yeah, I'm gonna go play Metroid and enjoy it. You're not going to enjoy it. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I played it because I'm just OCD and I just want to play every single Metroidvania I can get my hand on. If that's how you are, I would say go for it. You might want to bring, you know, with this internet age, it's not so bad. But yeah, it's a tough one to recommend. Where am I going to put it on the list? I'm going to put it. I'm going to put it on D. I do believe D is probably the best place to put this. Yeah. Like, it's not an F because it's not a failure. It's just not very good. So there we go. The original Metroid at D. All right. Next up, we have Axiom Verge, which is interesting. I swear I put these in a randomized picker, but it's like, I don't know. It really just kind of gravitates towards same or similar games, right? And so you talk to anyone who has played Axiom Verge and like, oh yeah, it harkens back and it reminds me of the original Metroid. Which I find that to be an insult, but anyway, I'm just joking. Axiom Verge is a great game, and you know, again, the original Metroid's fine. It just hasn't aged well. So, how is Axiom Verge? Well, I like this game, so that's good. I really liked its story. I think it has a really cool story. It hooks you right from the beginning. It has interesting characters, a very interesting setting. And it really drives you to keep playing, you know, and moving forward in the game. So I really, really like its story. And then, you know, I have Axiom Verge 2 on here. And I liked the continuation of that story. You know, you don't have to play 1 to play 2 and vice versa, obviously. But there are obvious connections, and you can see how they're creating this kind of like overarching story. And it all began here with Axiom Verge, and I got hooked, you know, with the breach, and then those big I can't remember the names. I think it started with an R. It's a weird name, but they have those big robots. One was Ophelia, and but anyway, yeah, I really liked the setting of the story, and it kept me hooked. There's lots of stuff to find in this game. There's probably, and I'm pausing so I can get the number right, but I'm pretty sure it's accurate if I say there's 3 billion guns you can find in this game. Like literally, there's so many guns. And then you can like increase your HP, and you know, there's a bunch of abilities to find and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a whole lot of things to find here, especially the notes. It's always the best. I love going through lore in video games, and this game has that in spades. You can find notes and all kinds of stuff. And there's also this really cool thing as well. I don't have it on the bullet point. I don't know why, but I'm gonna go ahead and start to the next bullet point. Is that that's not on here, but I really like the code system that the game had. They didn't utilize it too much, unless you want to like cheat or something like that, or put in something, whatever. But there's instances in the game where you get to like a spot and you're like, oh man, I can't move forward. But then if you scan the area with a specific gun, it gives you a code, and then you go in and you put that code into this device that you have found. Then it alters the world, so you can then go in and get stuff, and you can like increase the, I don't know, you can get something to increase the range on your gun or the size of the bullets of your gun or something like that. There's, like I said, there's a bunch of crap to collect in this game, and you know, utilizing that password device was really, really cool. I thought that was kind of cool. I wish they would have used it more, but what they used it for kind of was cool. The abilities in the game are impressively unique. You know, you play a Metroidvania and you're like, okay, I'm going to get the double jump, then I'm going to get the hook shot, and then I'm going to get the wall climb, right? And this game, it does have a grappling hook, and it's pretty fun to use, but a lot of the abilities that you get in this game are pretty unique. The first one is like the glitch gun. That thing is cool. You know, you can mess up the enemies, or you can change the terrain just by shooting it with your glitch gun. That's really neat. Then you can like phase through stuff with like your lab coat. You can, it starts out that you can just go through specific walls, and then it ends up to where you can like do like an air dash and stuff with it. So, yeah, the abilities in this game are pretty neat, especially that glitch gun. Some cons for Axiom Verge. Going back to that lab coat ability. Yeah, you gotta like double tap the direction that you want to do, and that just feels awkward. I always hate doing it, especially in combat. If I want to like dash around something or through something or under something, and I gotta double tap it, it's not as responsive as I wanted it to be. So I wish it had more of a dedicated button to do that. There are too many guns in this game. I like the guns, but not all of them are great. They're fun to experiment with and to play with, but ultimately you just get so many, and it's just like you get kind of like tired of them. Like literally the wheel to this gun, because you can pick your gun, and like there's like a wheel that goes around you and you can choose. It's huge. There's like gotta be like 20 something guns in this game. It's crazy, and like not, and some of them suck and some of them are great, and like some of them are OP, and it's like why would I even use the other ones? So but yeah, and you know what, I think there's like, remember I talked about that password thing? I think you have to use that to get the flamethrower in the game. So that was really cool. So there's another time when you have to use that password. I really liked that about it. And I guess my last con here is there's just too much Metroid influence in here. There are some untelegraphed or not unlabeled spots where you can blow things up or shoot stuff, so then you can like move forward. And some people probably like that, and sometimes it is kind of cool. But when it's like a lot of the game is like that, you're just like, oh man, this is getting frustrating. Like, do I shoot this thing? Do I blow up this thing? Do I scan it with my glitch gun? Do I do this? Do I do that? And it kind of reminds me of like Luigi's Mansion, which is kind of a, you know, I don't think anyone expected that comparison, but yeah, like in Luigi's Mansion, that's why I didn't like the second one, because it was like, okay, here's an object I got to interact with, so I got to shoot it with my flashlight, then I got to like bump up against it, then I got to like, you know, use my vacuum to like suck out the stuff, or then I can blow it, and you know what, I'm gonna like move forward from this. This is getting weird. So anyway, just my final thoughts for Axiom Verge. You know, I played it years ago and forgot about it, which is weird, but then I replayed it not even a year ago, and I appreciated it more. It's super impressive that one dude made it. Thomas Happ, I do believe is his name. Some people claim it's a masterpiece. I don't know if I would go that hard on it. I think it's a good game, but it's not like my favorite Metroidvania of all time. So let's see. If I had to actually place it onto this tier list, I'm gonna put it. Let's see, not there. I just wanted to drop it. Man. Yeah, I'd probably put it low B. You know, low B. And you can see that I got Axiom Verge 2 as you know, high B. I do appreciate that and like that game a little bit more. And I don't know, maybe that's controversial, but Axiom Verge is fine. Again, it's the story that really sold me on that one. The actual gameplay I thought was just okay, and the exploration was interesting enough, but like it wasn't as rewarding as I wanted it to be, because God, those guns, there's too many guns, and they just started just really just, oh good, I got another gun, throw it on the pile, right? So whatever. So yep, there's my Axiom Verge. Next up is The Messenger. This one's interesting because it's only half a Metroidvania, and you know, whatever, spoilers alert, this game's been out forever, so I would imagine anyone listening to this knows about the messenger at this point. But yeah, it starts out kind of like Ninja Gaiden, and then there's a twist halfway through it, and then it opens up into a Metroidvania. So yeah, it's really interesting. It was really cool when it first came out and it happened. You didn't know, because I played it. I went in blind. I just heard everyone talking about how great this game was. I think I bought it day one and played it. I was like, wow, this is incredible. That's really cool. But yeah, so some pros to the game. It's funny. It is a legit funny game. I love a lot of, like, I did in one of my first videos, I even did the gag about the hat. You got your main character. When he goes into the future in the 16-bit era, he gets a hat, and the shopkeeper's all about this hat. And then later on, the shopkeeper has the hat, and then it's like, well, no, I had the hat first. You're copying me. So, it's not funny as I deliver it, but if you played the game and you witnessed it, it's super funny. But yeah, it stays away. The humor, it stays away from common indie tropes. If you play like an indie game, it's going to be self-deprecating, or it's going to be like meta humor, making fun of the genre or the video game industry or something like that. The Messenger stays away from that. I don't think it has any self-deprecating humor. It does have some meta humor, but it works just because the writing in general is clever and the characters are endearing. But yeah, as an indie game, its humor is pretty atypical of the genre or of the industry. Because again, typically you got an indie game and they just are making fun of themselves and making fun of the video games as a whole. It's like, it's all right. But the platforming is fantastic. I absolutely love it. They have something called cloud stepping, which is if you jump in the air and hit something, you get another jump. And you can indefinitely jump as long as you're hitting something with your sword, right? And so there are some boss fights in the game that are really fun, like the dragon. When you fight the dragon, you're fighting on top of clouds, and it'll destroy the clouds, and then it basically forces you to hit the dragon's fireballs and continue jumping until you reach the dragon and hit it, and then the clouds will come back and you can land. That was an amazing boss fight. That was a whole lot of fun. And just cloud stepping in general is fantastic. And there's a lot of platforming challenges in the game. You can collect these green seals if you're interested, which I did when I first played it. The reward sucks. It's like a large shuriken sub-weapon that acts like the one from Ninja Gaiden, where it's like you throw it and then you jump over it and it'll like keep going back and forth as long as you don't grab it. Definitely not worth the reward, but if you're interested in the actual platforming challenge, well, then yeah, go for it. But yes, platforming in this game is a whole lot of fun. There's you get like a grappling hook. They actually have a name for it, and they make fun of that. Everyone's just going to call it the hook shot, which I will continue to do because I remember the name. Maybe it's called like the dart or something. I don't know. But yeah, the platforming in the game is pretty top tier, and they use it in the boss fights. Like even like when you're fighting this like devil looking dude, I can't remember the name, but like all these other demon heads pop out, and you got to hit them and keep off the ground because the ground is literally lava, I do believe, or it turns into like fire or something. So that's a pretty cool boss fight too. But yeah, man, the platform in this game is top notch. And then of course that cool twist that I talked about. There's a couple of really cool twists in the game, so here's some more spoilers. But again, I imagine you guys have played this game. But okay, the first twist is that it goes from a 8-bit to a 16-bit game. It's time traveling. You can go back and forth in these portals. That's a cool twist. The other twist that I really liked is that you were given the scroll by the Western hero, right? And so you start going east because that's where the scroll is supposed to go. And you go so far east, you come back from the west and you become the Western hero. That was kind of blew my mind. That was really cool that they did that. So a couple of cool twists in the game. Let's do some cons. One, the game is too long in my opinion. The backtracking can get cumbersome, especially because you're doing a lot of backtracking through areas you've already been to. Like when you go to the future, the game opens up into the Metroidvania portion of it, and you have to retrace your steps to find these notes, and we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, you're retracing your steps through areas you've already been to, and it didn't bother me too much when I first played the game, but I replayed the game not too long ago, and I just got bored. I'm like, I lost motivation. I ended up doing it, but I don't know what it was. There's something about retracing your steps, and then the way some of the levels are built, like you can't switch from 8-bit to 16-bit or past the future like on the fly. You have to hit these portals just right, and sometimes the way the levels were designed, it was cumbersome to have to go back, hit the portal to go to whatever time period you need to be at, and then go all the way back to where you were going. It could be cumbersome. Again, when I first played the game, it didn't bother me, but my second playthrough, it did. I don't know. Let's see. Exposition. Man. So this game has an exposition dump right before you get into the last biome. So you got to collect the 8 notes. You give the 8 notes to, whatever, that place in the tower. Then they tell you what's going on in the game. Why this curse is happening, and blah blah blah, this that. And I'm not joking. I think it's like a 20-minute exposition dump. I could be exaggerating. Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 10. But man, there's this huge exposition dump right when you're about to get into the final biome, which is like the music box, right? And you're just like, what is happening right now? It would have been nice to have that information trickle to you as you're playing the game to keep you interested and stuff. I don't know, but I thought that was a weird and just, it was weird. It was just weird. I didn't understand why they had this huge dump. Maybe that doesn't bother you too much. It really bothered me. I'm like, what is going on with this? Why are you telling me all this now? It was weird. Then there's that one ability that you really don't use. I think I used it like in one biome. That's when you get the ability. It's the one where it allows you to run on like water. So you can run on top of water. I remember using it there and never using it ever again. And I'm certain there are probably 2, maybe 3 other times that you use it, but I don't remember. I only remember using it once. So I really wish they would have utilized that ability more, because that was kind of cool to be able to run on top of water. My closing comments on it. I love the messenger, but playing through it a second time, I actually found it to be a little exhausting. That being said, where would I put it on the Metroidvania tier list? I'm gonna put it mid-C. It's a good game. It's a great platforming game, and I like the combat. But as far as Metroidvanias go, it's really only half a Metroidvania. And again, like I said, some of those level designs and how you got to go through the portals and run around and just backtracking through areas you've already been through, it's not the most thrilling. It's not, not the most exciting Metroidvania to explore in. So I'll just leave it at that. It's a great game. I love it, but I just don't think it's a great Metroidvania. Next up, we have Shantae and the 7 Sirens. I will go ahead and spoil things for you. This is my favorite Shantae game, and I am a huge Shantae fan. I don't know if that's weird to say, especially when I'm, as old as I am. But I really think the Shantae games are a whole lot of fun. And Shantae and the 7 Sirens, I think, was the best one. It's the latest one, too. So I'm excited to see where this franchise goes next. Let's get into the pros and the cons. So let's start with the pros. I actually got a lot here. So let's talk about dancing to transform is gone. That was probably my favorite thing. If you remember the other Shantae games, Pirate's Curse notwithstanding, that in order to, her big gimmick was, Shantae's big gimmick is, I'm going to dance and I turn into an animal, and then the animal has all these different abilities, right? Like, for instance, I could dance, turn into the monkey, and now I can, jump really high, and I can climb walls or whatever. In this game, they got rid of a lot of the traditional or the staples, like the monkey, the elephant. Both of them are gone. They replaced them with like a newt and a turtle or something like that, and you don't have to dance anymore. And the reason that's such a big deal is because it was always frustrating. It's like, okay, I know what I gotta do, so I gotta turn into this animal to do it, and I gotta watch Shantae dance, and it cycles through stuff, and not at the most fast pace. And I think you can go in the options and change the speed at which the dance and the cycling goes through, but it's just obnoxious. They totally got rid of that in this game, and I love it. Now everything is a button press. So if I want to turn into the newt in this game, which is like a dash or an air dash, and it can crawl on walls, I just press the button and she does it. It's great. So that's a big deal in this game. Next pro is I really like the animation and the colors. I always have in the Shantae games. It's like this kind of tropical type thing going on. Although this is not, there's some downsides to this game, and I'll get to those. But yeah, I always thought Shantae's animations were fantastic, and the colors are always bright and they always pop out, and I always appreciate that. And the music's always cheery too. So This game is a return to a true Metroidvania format. The last 2 games, I would consider Metroidvanias maybe lower on the spectrum because each level is, they don't have biomes, they have levels. So I think that's the issue. And, so you got a hub town, and then you go into like, in Pirate's Curse, you get to a pirate ship, and then you choose the island to go to, and then bam, then you go to the level. Half Genie Hero, same thing. I think it's like a flying carpet. No, it's not a flying carpet. You're on Sky's Bird, because Sky's Bird can turn big for some reason in that game. I was like, oh yeah, I can always do that. So you get onto the bird, and then you fly to the level, and then bam, there's a level. So they're self-contained levels as opposed to like a one big interconnected world. Shantae and the Seven Sirens returns to that interconnected world, and I really like that a whole lot, and I hope they continue to do that. Monster cards were great. I loved collecting the monster cards in this game. You kill a monster, you collect their card, and it's not like that's a new thing. You see that in Castlevania all the time. There's a few Castlevania games that you collect specific things that enemies drop, right? Like souls or whatnot. In this game, it's cards. And each card, you can equip like 3 cards. And each card adds a buff. And that's awesome. So, it kind of scratches that itch of collecting stuff that I like in Metroidvanias, as well as actually giving you tangible results for collecting these things. So, yeah, I really loved the addition of the monster cards. There's a great feeling of progression in this game and customization, again with the monster cards, but you can also like buy shampoo to make Shantae's hair whips stronger or faster. You can upgrade her magic. There's all the abilities. There's different dances. The dances are still in this game, but they're more of like super moves as opposed to like traversal options. So yeah, it works. And then of course the monster cards. Lots of customizations, lots of passive stuff. So yeah, the overall tone is great. I guess I'll dive deeper into that when I talk about another game on this list that has the direct It's basically the direct opposite of Shantae, and so you can imagine that I don't really like this game. But yeah, I love the tone to Shantae games. They're funny, they're lighthearted, and they're goofy, and I appreciate that. Some cons. This game, it started out as a mobile game. You can get it came in 2 parts. You get the first part, and then you get the second part later, right? And I don't know, this kind of felt like a mobile game when I first started playing it. I get it. Don't get me wrong, it's my favorite Shantae game, but it's not perfect, and it felt like a kind of a cheap mobile game, especially at first. Now I think there were some patches that came out and they added some more voice work and things like that, but this didn't feel like your typical Shantae game, and I think it's because it released on like Apple Arcade first. That was an interesting move they did. This game has a boxy design. I want to say that most Shantaes do have a boxy design, and this is kind of a pet peeve of mine, and I don't know if I've ever addressed it on my channel, but when I'm playing a Metroidvania and I'm taking a look at how the levels are designed, I pay attention to its boxiness, and I'll have to explain that. So basically what's happening is like there's no slopes. There's 0 slopes in this game, right? Everything is either parallel or perpendicular, right? That bugs the crap out of me. Hollow Knight does this too. No one ever addresses this, but Hollow Knight has a very boxy level design, and it looks inorganic and doesn't feel the best. And I mean that in Shantae, I mean that in Hollow Knight, I mean that in Super Epic, if you ever play that crappy game. But yeah, it's not my favorite. And I guess we'll get on to the other things. Because of this boxy design, the biomes are really weak in this game. They do a good job of making the backgrounds look kind of different, but it's very formulaic in Shantae 7 Sirens, because it's like you feel like you're in a submarine the entire game. So every place you go to is this metal grating or you're on metal something. And in the background, maybe there might be some plants, maybe there might be like some rocks or something like that. But you're always in like a submarine type setting, and that's kind of boring. And then the Risky fights. So Risky, the character, you got to fight her over and over and over again, and that gets formulaic. And you're like, what is going on here? I got to keep fighting Risky in every single dungeon, and it's not even like Sonic and Dr. Robotnik. You fight Robotnik all the time, but he gets a different machine. No, every time you fight Risky, it's like the midway point through a dungeon, and she's the same. Maybe she moves a little faster, maybe she hits a little harder, but it's the same move, same fight every single time, and it was stupid. So Yeah, so my final thoughts on Shantae. It's been a minute since I played it, to be quite honest with you, but I just remember really liking it. And I remember being a little easy too. Because they drop so many healing items, so you can just kind of tank and spank every enemy in the game and just eat and gorge yourself while you're fighting. So it was an easy game, but it was still fun. So where would I put it on the list? Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and there we go. Yeah, it's a mid B. I'd put it above Pirate's Curse personally. I don't think a lot of people would do that, but I will. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good game. Next up, we got ourselves an anime game, boys. This is Overlord: Escape from the Nazarick. I don't know how to pronounce that. I've actually watched the anime, not the entire, I just watched a few episodes. It wasn't for me, but I thought it was all right. But anyway, for an anime game, this is actually pretty decent. It's not my favorite Metroidvania, but it wasn't bad. Again, for a licensed anime game, it was pretty solid. Let's take a look at some pros. So yeah, it is true to the anime. From what I watched, like 4 or 5 episodes or something like that. I thought it was pretty true to the anime, and I thought like the ending to it, like if you get the true ending to the game where you got to collect all the memories or whatever, it ends just like how I would imagined it would end, where it's like it's all supposed to be misinformation about the dungeon or the fortress or whatever the Nazarick is. I don't really know what it is, something like that, but that's where the guild lives, right? And so they basically want I can't even remember the main character's name, but anyways, they wanted her to actually survive the gauntlet so that she'd go out and tell everyone everything that she knew about the Nazarick, but everyone there was actually holding back, so they just wanted her to spread misinformation so people do come to attack, then they can surprise them. So I don't know, I thought that was true to the characters in the anime. And there's also a funny part where you fight Albedo, which is one of the like ladies in the game. She's obsessed with the main character. I think his name is Ainz. And you can drop a body pillow of Ainz on top of her before the fight, and it just gives you all these free hits, and you can get so much damage on her because she's like groping this pillow. It's hilarious. So I thought that was pretty solid. Platforming was kind of fun. You can run up walls. You get this morning star that acts as a hook shot, or yeah, pretty much like a hook shot. You can like grab onto to walls and climb them because of this morning star. It was kind of cool. You can spin on poles and fire yourself off. That was pretty cool. And you get a time slow mechanic, which I don't remember using too much. But when you did use it, it was, you can have a little fun with that. And then there was like this element mechanic to it, which was interesting. Like you get like fire, lightning, and ice, and you can switch between them. And think of it kind of like Ikaruga. If someone's using fire magic, you put your fire magic on, and now the fire does no damage to you. Same thing with lightning, same thing with ice. And this became integral for boss fights, because especially the boss of the game, when you're fighting Ainz, he'll go back and forth between the 3 different elements, and as long as you're paying attention and switching, appropriately, you can, walk through a lot of his attacks. Yeah, and that's my third point here, is I really like that element changing part. That was probably the coolest part about the combat in the game. Some cons, the true ending is locked behind collecting all these memories. There's like 100 memories in the game. You got to collect them, and they suck. They're just like still images from the anime. Wasn't very cool, and the reward isn't even that great either. So I don't recommend doing that. There's no real way to close in on your enemy in combat. Like your main character, she gets a slide, which is pretty cool, but that's it. Any other time you got to jump to dodge stuff. There's no double jump in the game that I can remember. I don't think there's a double jump. You can just slide, and that's it. No, you can run up walls, but if you want to get some, close some distance between you and the enemy, you really don't have any options other than that slide. So I thought that was kind of a letdown, especially because your main character is so acrobatic. You'd think there'd be some sort of like flip or dash or something, but nope. Nothing like that. The game is super short. I think I beat it in like 3 or 4 hours, but I would imagine any longer than that, it would overstay its welcome. So yeah, it being super short, it's not that big a deal. And for some reason, the game looks blurry to me. I don't really like the aesthetic to the game. Like everything looks like it's kind of blurry. And I played it on the Switch, but
Maybe it looks better on other consoles, but I don't think it does. It just kind of looks blurry, and I think that's what they wanted it to look like, so I don't know. And your main character has like an after image whenever she does anything, so if I jump, there's like this, and I don't know why she has an after image. She's not like a vampire like Alucard or something, so whatever. It was weird. So closing thoughts for it is, you know, with the short time I spent with the game, I did enjoy it. It didn't do anything great, and at least nothing that I remember. But everything it did, it did decently, right? So there is some backtracking you can do. There's some fast travel, and there's exploration. And exploration is rewarded with, you know, additional weapons. And that's something I didn't really bring up. But there are multiple weapons you can equip in the game. Like, I talked about the Morning Star, but then there's like spears, and there's like huge swords. So exploration is rewarded, but it's nothing huge. So where would I put it on this list? Yeah, I think it's going to be I'm going to give it a low C. I'll put a below Messenger. Even though I think Messenger is way, way better than it. I imagine there's going to be a lot of games in between those two. But yeah, it's not a terrible game. It's just, you know, not too memorable. So there you go. Overlord.